If you are standing in front of your water heater right now, doing the math on whether this is the year it finally quits, hold off for a minute. I want to hand you two numbers first. The first number belongs to the manufacturer, 8 to 12 years. That is the service life a tank gets engineered around, and it is the window every warranty on the side of that unit is written to fit. The second number is what I actually haul out of basements. 15 years. 18. I have cut loose units that were 19 years old and still making hot water on the morning the truck showed up. That gap has almost nothing to do with the badge on the front of the thing. In 35 years in this trade, I have never replaced a water heater early, and the reason is so plain it is almost disappointing. 5 appointments. 5 items I put on a calendar and then actually keep in a specific order, and every one of them happens standing in your own utility room with tools you probably own. Stay with me to the end, because a lot of tanks carry a second anode rod hidden in a spot almost no homeowner thinks to look, and missing it means doing half this routine while believing you did all of it. Before the appointments, you need to know what you are fighting, because the routine only makes sense once you can see the enemy. A water heater is a steel drum with a thin coat of glass baked onto the inside. That glass lining is what keeps water off steel. It is also brittle, imperfect from the factory, and it opens hairline gaps as the tank heats and cools a few thousand times. Water finds those gaps. Once water touches bare steel, rust starts, and rust inside a sealed tank does not slow down on its own. That is enemy number 1, and it works where you will never see it until the day the floor is wet. Enemy number 2 settles quietly on the bottom. Every gallon coming into your house carries dissolved minerals, mostly calcium and magnesium. Heat drives those minerals out of solution, and they drop to the floor of the tank as a gritty sand. Plumbers call it sediment. On a gas unit, the burner fires directly under that pile. On an electric unit, the lower heating element ends up buried in it. Then there is pressure, which is the one almost nobody mentions. Water expands when you heat it. In an older house, that expansion pushes back out through the cold supply and disappears into the city main. In a newer house, with a check valve or a pressure-reducing valve at the meter, it cannot. That is what we call a closed system, and in a closed system, every heating cycle spikes the pressure inside your plumbing. Rust, sediment, pressure. The 5 appointments take those 3 off the board, and they run in this order, because that is the order the damage actually happens. Appointment 1, and if you keep only one item off this whole list, keep this one. Every 2 to 3 years, you pull the anode rod and look at it. Here is what an anode rod is in plain English. Screwed into the top of your tank is a long rod of magnesium or aluminum, usually 3 or 4 feet of it hanging down inside the water. It is called a sacrificial anode, and the word sacrificial is doing all the work. Magnesium and aluminum corrode more eagerly than steel does. So as long as that rod is in there, the chemistry inside the tank eats the rod and leaves your tank alone. It is a decoy. It stands in the water, taking the punches that were addressed to your steel. But a decoy only works while there is something left of it. In soft water or in a house running a water softener, that rod can be chewed down to bare wire in 3 years. In average water, it might take 5 or 6. Either way, there comes a morning when the magnesium is gone. The corrosion turns around and it starts on the tank itself. From that morning forward, the clock runs fast, and nothing you do afterward puts those years back. So every 2 to 3 years on the calendar, you check it. The job takes about half an hour. Kill the power at the breaker if the unit is electric, or turn the gas control to the pilot setting if it is gas. Shut the cold supply valve on top of the tank. Open a hot tap somewhere in the house to break the vacuum, then drain a couple of gallons out of the bottom valve so the water level drops below the top of the tank. Then you find the hex head on top. On some units it sits out in the open, On plenty of others, it hides under a plastic cap or under a layer of foam insulation, and you will have to cut that away to see it. The nut is 1 1/16 of an inch. You want a 6-point socket, a long breaker bar, and somebody bracing the tank, because that rod has been sitting under heat for years, and it will be seized. This is the part that surprises people. It is not a wrench job, it is a leverage job. 2 things worth knowing before you get under that nut. First, if the rod will not budge with a breaker bar and a helper steadying the tank, stop before you twist the whole heater off its connections. A cheater pipe over the bar and a shot of penetrating oil left overnight will usually win. And an impact wrench wins almost every time if you can borrow one. Second, look up. If you have less than 4 feet of clearance above the tank, a standard rigid rod will not come out of the hole. The answer is a segmented rod, sometimes called a flexible or link anode, built in short sections joined together so it bends its way out and bends its way back in. Same protection, same price range, and it fits a closet installation where a rigid one never could. Now the decision, and it is genuinely simple. Pull the rod out and lay it on the floor. If it still looks like a rod, with a thick body of metal on it, thread it back in and come back in 2 years. If 6 inches or more of bare steel core wire is showing through, or the whole thing has gone to pitted nubs strung on a wire, that rod is finished. A replacement runs $20 to $40 at any supply house. Thread the new one in with fresh tape on the threads, snug it down, refill, and you are done. Sit with that trade for a second, because it is the entire argument of this video in one line. Call it $25 every 2.5 years or so. Against that, an installed replacement tank runs $1,200 to $2,000 across most of the country right now, and more if code has moved since your unit went in and the installer has to add venting, a pan, a drain line, or an expansion tank to bring the whole setup current. That assumes the old tank died politely on a weekday while somebody was home. If it splits open while you are at work, you are adding drywall, flooring, and a deductible to the invoice. A $25 part on a calendar against all of that. Every plumber I know keeps this up on their own equipment, and hardly any of us ever get called out to do it for a homeowner. Quick pause, because that Anode job is one of 50. My guide is called 50 Easy Plumbing Fixes that will save you $10,000. And every fix in it is written for a Saturday morning, basic tools, no license required. It also shows you what a fair quote looks like, so you can tell padding from real work. Scan the QR code on the screen to grab it. The rod handles rust. It does nothing about the pile sitting on the floor of your tank, which is where appointment 2 lives. Once or twice a year, you draw 2 to 3 gallons off the bottom and read what comes out. Notice, I did not say drain the whole thing. A full drain takes an hour and can stir up trouble. You were better off leaving settled. What you want is a mini flush. Hook a garden hose to the drain valve near the floor, run the other end out a door, and open that valve long enough to fill 2 or 3 buckets. Now look at the water. If it runs clear from the start, your tank is in good shape and you are done until next year. If it comes out looking like weak coffee with grit settling in the bucket, that is your sediment, and you keep going until it clears. Here is why it matters. On a gas heater, the burner sits directly underneath that layer, and sediment insulates. The flame has to overheat the steel floor to push heat through the pile into the water, and that overheating cracks the glass lining from below. Cracked lining means bare steel, and bare steel means rust. Sediment does not kill the tank by itself. It sets up the thing that does. It is also the noise. Rumbling, popping, a sound like somebody dropped marbles in the tank. All of it is water flashing to steam underneath the sediment. Homeowners hear it for years and decide it is just how the thing sounds. It is a symptom with a 20-minute fix. On an electric unit, it is worse. The lower element sits down in that zone, and an element buried in sediment runs hot with nowhere to dump it. So it burns out early. That is a service call you can avoid with a garden hose. One safety line, and I mean it. Let the water cool, or at least drop the thermostat and give it a few hours before you open that drain valve. Water off the bottom of a working heater is scalding, and a hose will not protect your hand at the connection. 2 appointments down. Rust and sediment are handled, and neither one touches pressure. Appointment 3. Once a year, you test the temperature and pressure relief valve. Plumbers call it the T&P or the TPR. Find it first. It is a valve threaded into the top or upper side of the tank, with a metal lever and a pipe running down toward the floor. That valve has the most important job on the appliance. If the water inside ever climbs past roughly 150 pounds of pressure, or 210 degrees, that valve opens and dumps. Without it, a heater with a stuck thermostat becomes a pressure vessel with no way out, and those do not fail gently. The test takes 10 seconds. Put a bucket under the end of the discharge pipe, lift the lever part way, hold it a second or two, and let it snap back. 3 things can happen. Water comes out hard and stops clean when you release the lever. Healthy valve, and you are finished for the year. Nothing comes out at all. That valve is seized with mineral scale, and one that will not open on a good day will not open on a bad one. Replace it. Water keeps dribbling after you let go. The seat did not reseat. Sometimes a second cycle clears the grit. If it is still weeping the next day, replace it. Swapping one is a 30-minute job and the valve runs $15 to $30, but it does mean draining the tank down below it. If that is past where you are comfortable, this is fair to hand a plumber. What you must never do is cap it, plug it, or thread anything restrictive onto that discharge pipe. I have found exactly that in basements, and it stops the job while I explain why. Appointment 4 costs nothing, takes about a minute, and pays you back every day the tank is left. Set the thermostat to 120 degrees. On an electric unit, that means killing the breaker, popping the access panels, folding back the insulation, and turning both thermostats to the same setting with a small screwdriver. Both of them. Set the top one and forget the bottom one, and you get a tank quietly fighting itself. On a gas unit, it is the dial on the control valve at the bottom front. A lot of them are marked with letters or hash marks instead of numbers, and the factory setting usually lands near 140. Turn it down, then check an hour later at a tap far from the heater. 120 does 3 things at once. It closes the scald window. Water at 140 degrees can give a small child a serious burn in a couple of seconds. At 120, that same exposure takes minutes. With kids or older folks in the house, this is reason enough on its own. It slows the sediment. Minerals drop out of water faster the hotter it runs, so every degree you come down is less sand landing on the floor of the tank. And it trims the bill. Your heater holds a big volume of water hot around the clock, whether anybody uses it or not. Plumbers call that standby heat loss, and it works like a thermos that keeps reheating itself all night. The smaller the gap between water and room, the cheaper it is to hold open. One honest note before you touch the dial. If somebody in the house has a compromised immune system, talk to their doctor first, because there is a real conversation about bacteria in stored water at lower settings. That is a medical question rather than a plumbing one. Appointment 5 is the one hardly anybody has heard of, and it is why some homeowners do everything else right and still lose a tank in year 10. Go look at the cold water pipe above your heater. If there is a small tank hanging off it, roughly the size of a football, that is a thermal expansion tank, and once a year you check whether it is still doing anything, Here is the mechanism. Heat water and it grows. A full tank heated from cold gains most of a gallon of volume, and that has to go somewhere. In an older house, it pushed back out into the street. Somewhere in the last 20 or 30 years, your utility likely put a check valve at the meter, or a plumber installed a pressure-reducing valve, and either one turns your house into that closed system I mentioned earlier. Now the extra volume has nowhere to go, so every burner cycle spikes the pressure inside your pipes. The expansion tank absorbs it. Inside is a rubber diaphragm with compressed air behind it, and that air squeezes to make room for the extra water, then pushes it back out when somebody opens a tap. But a diaphragm can fail, and when it does, the tank fills with water and quits. Plumbers call that waterlogged. From the outside, the house looks fine, but the pressure spikes come right back and hammer everything downstream. Your relief valve, your toilet fill valves, your faucet cartridges, and the heater. The check is easy. Wrap the side of the expansion tank with a knuckle, top and bottom. The top half should sound hollow, the bottom half solid. If the whole thing rings dull and heavy all the way up, it is waterlogged and needs replacing. $40 to $70 for the part. And if there is no expansion tank up there at all, but you do have a check valve or a pressure-reducing valve at the meter, your system has been running without a shock absorber this whole time. That is worth a call. So walk the whole ledger with me, because that ledger is all the title of this video is describing. A rod every couple of years. A flush that costs 3 buckets of water. A relief valve test, a thermostat setting, and a knuckle wrap on an expansion tank, all of them free. Run that across 15 years, and you have spent maybe $150, plus a couple of hours a year in a room you already own. When I say I have never replaced a water heater early, what I am describing is that arithmetic, run again and again for decades, on my own equipment and on the equipment of people who took the advice. Now the honest boundary, because a routine is not a resurrection. There are tanks this will not save. Rusty hot water at the taps with clear cold water means the lining is already gone. Moisture weeping from a seam on the tank body is a tank telling you it is finished, and no rod reverses that. Past 15 years and staring at a large repair bill, put the money toward replacement instead of into the old drum. And if you find a puddle underneath, do not stand there researching it. Shut the cold supply valve on top, kill the power of the gas, and start making calls. What the routine buys you is the difference between choosing your replacement week and having it chosen for you at 6 on a Sunday evening at emergency rates. That difference alone is worth several $100s. Now the bonus I promised, and it separates the people who do this routine from the people who believe they do. A lot of tanks built in the last 15 or 20 years carry a second anode, hidden inside the hot water outlet nipple on top of the tank, and it gets called a combo rod because that fitting is doing 2 jobs at once. You cannot see it, and there is no separate hex head advertising it. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary outlet fitting, which means a homeowner pulls the main rod, finds plenty of metal left, and walks away satisfied. While the combo rod, smaller and working harder, went to nothing years ago, and the top of that tank has been corroding ever since. So how do you know? Look up your model number on the manufacturer part sheet, or count the threaded ports up top. A cold inlet, a hot outlet, and only one other port holding the main anode usually means there is a combo rod in that outlet too. Changing it is a real job because the whole nipple comes out with the rod attached. So if your main rod is due anyway, that is the day to ask about it. Even knowing it exists puts you ahead of nearly everybody with a tank in their basement. One last thing. Everything in this video came out of one habit: keeping the calendar. That is the same habit behind 50 easy plumbing fixes that will save you $10,000, which sorts the repairs worth doing yourself from the ones worth handing off. The QR code on the screen has it, and subscribe to the Mark Silverbridge channel for honest fixes that keep money in your pocket.